Yo, what's going on, guys? All right, so in today's video, we are going to be talking about the first boss, the mobs, and how much damage they deal. We're going to be talking about the different boss attacks from the first boss, the damage for each attack, how to glitch, what I think needs to be fixed in this dungeon, because let's just face it, it needs to be fixed. But first, you guys, make sure to like this video so more people can watch it. Sub if you haven't subbed, and let's get right into it. All right, so we're also going to be talking a lot about what RNG is, because this is an RNG based dungeon. If you don't know what that is, it is a luck based dungeon, which means that there are just certain attacks that are random, luck based, things that will spawn in places where you just can't actually calculate out. And yeah, so it can be a game killer, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. So first up is what should be the typical damage for this dungeon. So going based off of EF, most of the attacks were 160, so typically that's doubled, so the mobs should be anywhere from like 270 to 320, and then bosses will be a little bit heavier with 320 attacks on up to like some of the heavier attacks, which should be around 640. But interestingly enough, in this dungeon, that is not the case. So in the current damage right now in this dungeon, the mobs are right where they should be, but the boss attacks are not. They are ranging from around 340 to around 780, probably close to 790 on some of them. And there is a lot of them that do that heavier hit attack. And you have combos going on that just absolutely shred people to pieces. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that and why I think that that needs to be changed drastically. All right, let's get right into it. All right, so let's talk about the first set of mobs. Remember, they deal what this dungeon should be, which is around 270 to 320 for their attacks. And I'll show you that here in this screenshot on a whole group. You can see the range and that it matches exactly what it should be for this dungeon. Okay, so as you're entering the boss, you're going to have these 2-line attacks that is going on. And these lines deal around 340, which is typical for a boss attack, I would suggest. So the next up are the tornadoes. Now, the tornadoes deal an incredible amount of damage. Too much in my opinion. The tick rate is really fast. It's the #1 killer of this dungeon. It is the RNG factor of first boss, and people die like flies. I don't care how much HP, you can't even have enough HP on you to be able to survive a tornado. So this is one that I would ask Vinny to actually fix in the dungeon to make first boss a viable solution to play without having to go and hide out into the tunnel. All right, let's move on. All right, so after that, the boss is going to teleport, and his circle is that next attack, and it deals out a whopping amount of damage. You're talking the top tier portion of damage here for that teleport circle. Now, listen, guys, that's a little bit too much in my opinion, especially when you have lines, freaking tornadoes, and then now you have this big bleepity bleep circle coming at you that you can't have enough time to walk out of. That's just a little too much in my opinion. I would shrink the circle just a touch, and I would lower that damage down to 340. In my opinion. I mean, if you wanted to make it a top tier, it should be 640 capped in this dungeon. That's my opinion. Okay, so you're going to see coming up here in a second what we call like the star line pattern. And these are double lines, all right, mind you. Even if it looks like it might be a single line, it is not. And so the damage that's being dealt is pretty rough too. It's 550. But I wouldn't change any of that. It seems okay because that's the only thing that's going on at the moment. Okay, so if you've managed to actually survive the teleport boss, the tornadoes and stuff, the shurikens are coming up next. And these actually show patterns of where they're going to be going. There's like a few small ones and then you have the really big one. And they actually deal a whopper of a damage there. Up in the 500s, almost 600. Now, this is also team-based damage as well if you're playing in a team or a raid. Now, the person who actually gets hit by the shuriken gets dealt the larger amount of damage while everyone else gets dealt around 340, which seems fair and whatnot. And it is healable, so I can see that being okay for the damage in this dungeon. Okay, so next up here, this is what we call the first boss glitch, where you pretty much just go up and hit him. You hang out there a little bit in the front to lure him in, and hopefully you don't get hit by a tornado. But this is how we are able to actually make this dungeon playable, which is kind of sad, but that's just the way it is because of the RNG factor of the tornadoes. The tornadoes make it unplayable for a big team, and this is where lack of testing comes in. Now, granted, I know Vinny probably has a lot of trust issues with people, and the people that he does have test with him are unable to complete the dungeon, except for maybe Pixel. but that is one criteria though that needs to be met in testing, is being able to play this dungeon over a long period of time in between dungeon releases. And coming from EF, which also had a lot of RNG on the first boss with the spikes, the thing is the spikes were stationary. They weren't like the tornadoes in the fact that at least you could somewhat dodge them unless they were just stacked up. And that's why we ended up having to go to non-hardcore. And we're back into playing non-hardcore again, which just makes me want to pull my hair out. I want to be able to play this dungeon hardcore within a large team-based atmosphere, because that's what makes running this dungeon fun. And so I hope that Vinny will take into account of lowering the damage of the tornadoes, lowering the tick rate, and capping the heavy hits at 640 and shrinking that circle up a little bit around the teleport boss. So that way we can have a little more of a viable dungeon that would be more enjoyable to play. And that is going to wrap up this video today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Throw it down in the comments what you guys think about the first boss, about what you guys think about the damage, and what you guys think might fix it to make it more enjoyable and playable over a long period of time. Another video going to be coming out covering on the second boss, which is all of our favorites, Bob. So, all right, until then, I will see you guys in the next vid. Peace out.